Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is January the 1st, 2025. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. I gotta get used to saying 2025. That's always a bit of a bit of a change, But hey, that comes every year, That's what we do. Hopefully, you've been having a good day. I've been good. I feel like I've been very efficient, very productive already. It's only the afternoon for me. It's a bit nippy, 38 degrees. It's pretty cold. I think it's gonna be cold all day. But yeah, let's just kind of start with what we did. I got up pretty early. Gym opened up at 6. I think I was up at like 5 something, just kind of chilling. Look, y'all, I'll get into it, but we had an early night in. We did not do much at all. But anyway, well, let's talk about the day first. So I got after it. We went to the gym, and it was nice to get there so early and like pretty much beat like any kind of crowd. It was super sick. Almost akin to the time when I went to the gym post the wedding and it was so dead. I was like, ooh, I wish it could just be like this all the time, Santa, please. But I already know it's gonna be a new wave of people who are coming in, cashing in on the Planet Fitness New Year deals and stuff. And I love that I'm already that guy. Like I was already like making that joke with like one of my friends at the gym like a week or so ago about like, oh man, those newbies are gonna come through. And I'm like, yeah, man, those newbies. Like, like I didn't just join in September. But yeah, we love that. We love that. I'm officially a part of the group. I'm part of the gang. I'm a gym rat for real, for real. But yeah, it's nice. It was a nice day so far. I went and got a coffee. Um, I like tried to list out this like almost like Starbucks coded like order. Sorry, I flopped my cell phone. Like this this complicated and essentially the guy was like, "Do you just want a caramelicious?" And I was like, "I guess I do." I'm not sure if it had espresso in it like I wanted, but I mean, it seemed like it did. So, they had it in like all kinds, like hot, iced, whatever. I was like, cool, sweet. Love that for me. So that might be my new order now from Scooters. That's where I got the coffee from after I got done with my workout. So yeah, let's get into last night and we'll go ahead and segue into the food corner and then, let's kind of talk about it. It was just such a casual Tuesday night for your boy. I really didn't do much. I had some soft plans and they fell through, and I just didn't want to scramble. In fact, it was weird. I wouldn't say weird, but like, I was getting my coffee and the guy asked me, he's like, oh yeah, you have a good New Year's, you do anything? And I was like, I slept. And he's like, no way, no way. Like you had to go out. You're lying. I'm like, nope, things just fell through. I was asleep by like 10 o'clock. So, like believe it or not, I'm just not a party animal anymore, y'all. Like every once in a while, I feel like I used to be pretty consistent about it. I liked going out in my early 20s, mid 20s. But yeah, definitely towards the end of my 20s and into my 30s, we're 34 now, y'all. I just, it's take it or leave it. If someone's going to invite me out, I love that. So thankful. Great. But if no one's going to invite me out, I'm not going to cry about it. You know what I mean? Like having to go out, having to like, don't be wrong, having a party. It's fun. It's cool. But then you always have to get back home. Like I'm not trying to spend the night. It's always just messy. You have to worry about the old coppers. It's just not my idea of a fun time in summation. It's just you do have the like, hey, the camaraderie, ringing in the new year. But like, I'm cool. I've done enough of them. I get it. I get it. It's just a date. It happens, and then we roll on over. Like I said, I gotta like write out all these checks and remember, hey, it's not 2024 anymore. It's always that. But hey, we move. I'm happy about it. So yeah, we made pasta last night. It was very comfy, cozy. I ate way too much of it, but we love it. It was pasta bolognese, the old red sauce. Let's see here, big salad, and with the bolillo roll, I kind of did it like I did the torta the other night, where I added some pickles. I did put some cheese on the bun. I also had a bagel as well with some cream cheese. I also put some cheese on that thing, and I like cut and I had cut a slit in the bolillo roll, right? So it's like almost like a pocket, And so I slip in the two pickles. I slip in some pesto in there, a little bit of mustard, a little bit of mayo in there. So it's like I'm essentially conjuring up a sandwich situation. All right. I throw them things in the air fryer, and then they come out nice and hot. That was good. It all really came together. I really enjoyed that meal. So I really wasn't in like a great condition to even go out, but I was gonna say, hey, I'll roll the dice if it happens, and it didn't happen. So you know what? I was curled up in bed around 10 o'clock. I wake up, it's like 5 in the morning, which means I slept really good. Like I was actually like a-okay with that situation. And I wake up to some text messages. Happy New Year. I love that. I love that. Happy New Year to all my friends, all my family, all my dear listeners. Happy New Year. If you celebrate it, that's cool. If you don't celebrate it, that's cool. I know technically I'm an international podcast. So, hey, I mean, so some people it's just another day, whatever. And you know what? Same, bud. So, on that note, yeah, I don't really want to, like I said, kind of like the other night, I really don't like talking about what I have planned for the new year, what we got cooking in the thing. Like, well, when we'll get there, you know what I mean? And I'm really just playing it by year, by ear, by year, whatever. I'm really just happy to be here. Let me just say that. I'm really happy that you are listening to this right now. That's crazy. That's awesome. I love that for me. But yeah, like let's just keep it going, no? But before I get into the news, before I get into the startup even, let me do the newsie roll call. Stephanie Renee, shout out to you. Edward Haas, shout out to you, brother. I hope you're both doing well. I love y'all very much. Thank you for all the support. Thank you for the financial backing, and to all the shadow donors, if you will. I'm hitting the triangle pose right now. Shout out to you. You are a newsie. You are loved. You are cherished. Thank you so much. Even if you didn't support, you know who you are. But yeah. I'm just stoked for y'all. I'm stoked that you guys like me so much that you do chip in. That's super appreciated. Into the new year, I salute you. And that's Newsy Supreme talking. Anyway, okay, let's go ahead and do our startup. Let's go ahead and stop fooling around and get into some news. Yeah. Let me just hold my tongue. We'll let the news do the talking. Hopefully, God, this episode I'm kind of worried about. I don't know why. Like it winds up being a lot for me sometimes, where I look at what I have and I feel daunted. I'm like, oh, this might not go as well as I would like it to. But then, it is what it is. I let the wind take me. Anyway. Ooh. Ooh, buddy. Oh my. Oh me, oh my. All right. Starting. Start. Start. Ooh. From USA Today. U.S. imposes new sanctions on Iranian and Russian entities for election influence. Back at it again. The United States on Tuesday imposed new sanctions on entities in Iran and Russia, accusing them of aiming to stoke socio-political tensions and attempting to influence the 2024 U.S. election. The U.S. Treasury Department, in a statement, said Tuesday, actions build on sanctions previously imposed on the entities, a subordinate organization of Iran's Revolutionary Guard, a Moscow-based affiliate organization of the Russia's military intelligence. The governments of Iran and Russia have targeted our election processes and institutions and sought to divide the American people through targeted disinformation campaigns, said Bradley T. Smith, acting under Secretary of the Treasury for Terrorism and Financial Intelligence. The United States will remain vigilant against adversaries who would undermine our democracy. They go into the blah blah yada yada yada. I mean, we've talked sanctions before. It's not really much different than that, though. I don't have any details in terms of like who these sanctions are hitting, how bad are they, what have you. But I mean, I guess this is where I insert my usual spiel about how I feel about sanctions. I don't think they do shit. I think that and if they do shit, it's like, okay, you don't affect the targeted people, you affect the people on the ground, like of the country, of the nation state that you're trying to hit. And it's like, okay, so they struggle, they suffer. And what do you hope to have come out of that? Like you get some kind of, overthrow of the targeted party or something like that. No, you're just making people suffer usually. Or you more times than not, you just have the country do a workaround, and then they just wind up having to make more allies, and this makes things worse for you in the fucking long run from the fucking blowback of this shit. So I don't really like sanctions. They usually don't do too much, and if they do something, it's usually just sparks an ingenuity against you. So it's like, okay, great, awesome, love that. But I mean, hey, it is the old tit for tat. These things did happen in terms of like, yeah, did Russia get involved in terms of some interference? Did Iran get involved in some interference? Yeah, we covered a little bit of that. So for sure, yeah, I guess this is how you get them back, but it just does. It never seems effective to me. So like, oh, okay, we'll cover it, I guess. Also, I guess not to be one of those guys, but prediction. I would not be surprised if we, throw in some sanctions to China. Just we literally just covered a hack that they did or that they were talking about, in terms of the treasury itself. So, I mean, I'm sure they're going to try to get him for that. That was a China backed situation. So we'll see. Though I got to say, I don't like predictions. I never like them because people always like make these crazy, like wide arcing predictions. And they're like, huh, see, I told you. I gotcha. Like, okay, dude, cool, man. Cool Hail Mary that you hit. Like, that's so fun for the bingo. I don't know. But also sometimes they're fun. It's like, oh, cool. But that doesn't make you Nostradamus or anything. But some people on the internet, they like to make a tradition of a prediction, and they say wild things, and maybe like two or three hit, and like, oh man, see, that's crazy. I always tell you guys, I just see this shit coming. Like, whatever, bro. Anyway, let's move on. To some, this is some real shit. This is some unfortunate shit. From ABC News. Ecuador orders the detention of 16 soldiers charged with the disappearance of 4 children. An Ecuadorian judge Tuesday ordered the arrest of 16 soldiers charged with the disappearance of 4 children who went missing 3 weeks ago in the coastal city of Guayaquil. A request to detain the soldiers was made by Ecuador's Attorney General's office. In a statement on on X, the Everything app, the law enforcement agency said its request had been granted, adding that the detained soldiers could be transferred from a military base to a prison. The case of the missing children has shaken Ecuador, a nation where the military has been increasingly deployed to patrol cities and fight drug gangs amid growing levels of violence. The children, aged 11 to 15, were reported missing by their parents on December 8th, or after they went to play soccer in a working class sector of Guayaquil and did not return home. Video taken by security camera, excuse me, shows a military patrol taking 2 of the children into the back of a pickup truck and driving off with them. Something that isn't mentioned in the ABC News, but I picked this story up listening to the BBC News, is that there's footage of these men, these soldiers, beating these kids who just came out to play fucking soccer. And essentially they're caught up in this thing because they're like, oh, we thought that these people were involved in a robbery. That's what we came out here for. And so they just rounded up these kids, beat the shit out of them, drove the fuck off. I guess I got to slap some allegedlys on there or whatever. But at the same time, the military says the children were released on the same night they were detained and that the gangs are to blame for their disappearance. Fuck that, dude. It's so hard to believe on that. I personally don't. I can put my speculation hat on here. But meanwhile, detectives last week found 4 charred bodies near a military base on the outskirts of Guayaquil on Tuesday afternoon. The Attorney General's office said that the genetic test conducted on the bodies, whose faces and fingerprints were unrecognizable, determined that the corpses were those of the missing children. Prosecutors working on the case said they will now have to seek an additional hearing with a judge to issue new charges against the detained soldiers, who will probably face murder charges. So yeah, I mean, this has been an ongoing situation. I know at the top of last year, we really covered, Ecuador in the throes of this shit in terms of like gang violence increasing. I believe to the point where there was like state of emergency issued or something to that effect. I mean, like a martial law situation. But essentially, things have not gotten better in that regard. Um, President Daniel Noboa's government has leaned on the military to curb gang violence. However, the military has now been implicated in several abuses, including the disappearance of 2 children in August in the central province of Los Rios, and the case of a 19-year-old who was fatally shot by the military at a checkpoint on the road in Guayaquil. So yeah, I mean, we'll see how things shake out for Noboa in future elections. Obviously, I'm not fucking rooting for his ass. He's a conservative kind of guy who won out, kind of saying he was going to squash this shit. But it's like, no, it seems like your tactics really haven't squashed anything. It just shows that how the military is not really equipped to handle these situations in terms of just deleting people. That's what they're really good at doing. And you're putting them on your city streets and asking them to police those streets, and it's like, oh wow, they're handling it like this, and it's like. We'll see what unfolds there. But once I heard this story, I knew I was gonna have to fucking cover it. I knew I was going to get into it, and yeah, it makes me feel really upset. And not that the next story is gonna make me feel any fucking better, but we're gonna just go ahead and push on through to that. That's how this goes. From the Associated Press, driver rams New Year's revelers in New Orleans, killing 10. FBI investigating as act of terrorism. A driver wrought carnage on New Orleans' famed French Quarter early on New Year's Day, ramming a pickup truck into a crowd, killing 10 people before being shot to death by police, authorities said. More than 30 people were injured in the attack, which the FBI is investigating as an act of terrorism. The driver was killed in a firefight with police following the attack around 3:15 a.m. Wednesday along Bourbon Street near Canal Street in an area teeming with New Orleans revelers. Investigators were combing the French Quarter for potential explosive devices, a law enforcement told the Associated Press. The official was not authorized to discuss details of the investigation publicly and spoke to the AP on the condition of anonymity. FBI Assistant Special Agent in Charge Athelia Duncan said officials were investigating at least one suspected improvised explosive device at the scene. At a news conference, New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell described the killings as a terrorist attack, and the city's police chief said the act was clearly intentional. So yeah, I mean, there's gonna be, I imagine, more details to come here. 2 officers are wounded and are in stable condition. Police said they were in addition to the 33 people injured in the vehicle attack. Trying to think what else I really wanted to pull from here. Yeah, I mean, I don't have more details outside of, kind of what I talked about, up until this point, in terms of like potential motivations, what, like the explosive devices and stuff like that. I think when I initially kind of took in this story, really just the fact that like 10 people were killed in this kind of situation was like, damn. Also, it's worth noting too, I was scrolling through Facebook and, one of my friends said like, damn, like, I had some people involved in this situation where 4 people were killed in North Carolina, in a similar situation, though I don't know, about any of the intent or anything like that. But yeah, that was obviously just unfortunate. I know, kind of throughout 2024, we've covered some stories that were very similar to that. And I mean, sadly, in recent history, this has just been a thing where people will just use their cars, which is this reckless abandon, just driving into like mass crowds. So yeah, I mean, it's just really scary shit because you're just trying to be out and be with your friends and family, have a good time, ring in the new year, and boom, that's just deleted. That's just over. And so yeah, obviously my condolences go out to the families, people involved in that situation in New Orleans and North Carolina. And goddamn, I hope I really cover less of these kind of stories in the future. But yeah, let's move on to our last story for the day. And this one, we're doing an update here. I didn't expect to come back to the story as soon as I am, but so it goes, and I'm gonna do my best. But yeah, let me go ahead and do our last break, and then we'll try to get into it. We'll wade through these waters, man. This is some celeb shit that I just wanted to touch because it was interesting and worth talking about. It felt like it was in my lane, but whew, life in the fast lane. I don't know. This is a lot. Let me just go ahead and get my water break, my last break in, and we'll go ahead and try to close this out. Ooh. All right. So this story comes with variety, and I want to say mea culpa in advance because I'm gonna try to do my best in terms of trying to summarize this stuff and I guess catch us up, give Justin's side of the story, so to speak. And but yeah, I do think the article does a good job of really like saying everything that's going on here better than I could. So just want to say that to any diehards who want to get the full details, the full gory. I definitely want to reference this, but we'll try to do our best here. Let's go ahead and get in. Justin Baldoni files $250 million lawsuit against New York Times over Blake Lively's story. It relied on her self-serving narrative. Exclusive. On June 2nd, 2023, Blake Lively began a text exchange with her It Ends With Us director and co-star Justin Baldoni that blamed her assistant for not getting her an updated batch of script pages. She didn't realize they were new, Lively wrote. New pages can always be sent to me as well, please. The actress signed the missive with an X, the universal symbol for a kiss. Lively followed up with another text shortly thereafter. Also, pause. I mean, shit, to me, I thought X was a symbol of the Everything app, X, made by Elon Musk. So I don't know. That's already like kind of controversial to me as a person in the digital age. I don't know. I mean, are we saying this is XOXO like Gossip Girl? Or are we saying this is like X once again, like the Everything app? It's getting confusing in terms of tone here. But hey, I mean, that might be another factor of the story that once again, what I'm saying, I'm wading into things that just feel, it makes my kind of head hurt. Anyway, after another text shortly thereafter, hold on, here we go. Universal Missile. Lively followed up with another text shortly thereafter. I'm just pumping in my trailer if you want to work out lines. Baldoni responded, copy, eating with crew, and we'll head that way. 18 months later, that interaction was depicted in a New York Times bombshell report in a far more sinister light. The Times wrote, Baldoni repeatedly entered her makeup trailer uninvited while she was undressed, including when she was breastfeeding. Now, that's something that I had talked about previously when we introduced this story and started talking about this shit. So it's like the idea of saying, he's like, hey, there is some misinterpretation here in terms of like what text messages were highlighted to the point where it's like it's warping the reality of, what it really was. But I guess we'll read a little bit further, and I might, I'm gonna get my 2 cents here, I guess, a bit. That discrepancy is one of the many highlighted in the scathing $250 million lawsuit filed Tuesday afternoon by Baldoni against the Times in Los Angeles Superior Court. Baldoni is among a group of 10 plaintiffs that also includes publicists Melissa Nathan and Jennifer Abel, who are suing the newspaper for libel and false light invasion of privacy over the December 21st article titled We Can Bury Anyone Inside a Hollywood Smear Machine. The parties, which also include It Ends With Us producers Jamie Heath, who I want to remind the audience, if they've listened before, he is kind of implicated here because he showed Lively pictures of his naked wife, which I'm just going to kind of jump to that part where he's essentially saying, in my defense, I was showing her these these photos, this stuff, because it was for my wife's pregnancy, which is something we were related to the creative process for this movie, which I was like, oh, okay, well, that's real creative. And also, I'm like, but if she didn't want to see him, then she just didn't want to see that stuff. So I don't know, whatever. But okay, that was his kind of thing. Just in case I don't want to forget that in the whole fray of this. And Steve Sourwitz claimed that the Times relied on cherry-picked and altered communications stripped of necessary context and deliberately spliced to mislead. So essentially, they're saying they got it wrong, and they chose to take Blake Lively. And they also kind of add that not just Blake Lively, but Ryan Reynolds, who is upset at some of the how Blake Lively is saying, like, abuse, mistreatment, if you will, being on set, working with Baldoni, that he berated Baldoni, I think, at like some Tribeca thing. Hopefully I can remember when we get to it or something. But essentially he laid him to filth, and they actually had a preemptive smear campaign against him, and it's a whole thing. So like this is more or less him laying out his side of the story here. A New York Times spokesperson responded, "The role of an independent news organization is to follow the facts where they lead. Our story was excuse me. Our story was meticulously and responsibly reported. It was based on a review of thousands of pages of original documents, including the text messages and emails that we quote accurately and at length in the article. To date, Wayfarer Studios, Mr. Baldoni, the other subjects of the article, and their representatives have not pointed to a single error. We published their full statement in response to the allegations." So let me scroll here. In the article as well. We plan to vigorously defend against the lawsuit, which I think is really important to note here, and I agree. Anywhere here, they just say that they highlighted and maybe clipped out of context things, and that's not a fair portrayal of what it was. And when you do break down some of these things, like how Baldoni is trying to say, like when you expand on more of the text messages, and there's also an exchange, I think, between one of the publicists or whatever, and their defense in terms of like them trying to smear. It's like, no, like I actively say I wasn't involved in this in terms of like the publicists or whatever. And Baldoni is saying, hey, we were like kind of slipping in and out of roles here in terms of like being character, in terms of just being like people talking about it. And the way you're saying and villainizing how I'm talking, Blake Lively also talks about in text messages. So it's like, I can kind of see where he's trying to lay this out and maybe how that has some legs and can walk in court. I don't know. That's where we get to stand and see and find out. But I do think that the Times has something here where they're saying, you didn't say what we said was wrong. You didn't say that these text messages are wrong because they're your words. Like, but then there's also more to the effect of like, well, how did Blake Lively get access to these? Hopefully I can kind of find it, and hopefully I don't just have to summarize it. I guess I should read this part before I miss it. The Times reporting that Nathan and Abel planted negative stories about Lively with the press was bolstered by one particular text exchange in which the two appear to take a victory lap following a Daily Mail story about Lively that slammed her tone-deaf promotion of the film about domestic violence and resurfaced embarrassing interviews from her past. "You really outdid yourself with this piece," Abel wrote, prompting Nathan to reply, "That's why you hired me, right? I'm the best." But in its full context, it appears as though Nathan and Abel are jokingly taking credit for a story that emerged organically. The Times story omits a Nathan text that preceded the exchange in which she says she was uninvolved with the story's publication. "Damn, this is unfair because it is also not me," she wrote. The Times also clipped Abel's use of the upside-down smiley face emoji, which is typically used to convey sarcasm. So I can see it's like, hey, it's like if you had said all of the text, then that's less damning in your article. That makes this look way less villainous. So it's like, okay, I can understand that. But you could also say like, okay, but you did say these things, and that's, kind of damning in and of itself in its own way, maybe taken to some people. Like that's kind of up to interpretation maybe. So it's like, oh, okay, touche. We'll see in court. Let's see here. What I wanted to get to. They also talk about how Lively used the complaint to kind of preface this. Now she has like officially filed like a lawsuit against Baldoni and the company Wayfarer, all that stuff. But it's like, you got to enter this in, and you didn't have to like go about it through the legal, like the same legal channels, and it doesn't give quote unquote Baldoni the defense that he's deserved, and that doesn't feel fair. And that also is like kind of a part of why they said like, oh, this is like a part of the campaign against Baldoni. I'm roughly summarizing this for the sake of my own time. Sorry. But the plaintiffs also contend that the Times reporters overlooked text messages indicating that Lively's camp may have been waging its own PR war against Baldoni preemptively. The Times also deliberately ignores that Lively's publicist, Leslie Sloan, a Vision PR, once backed by Harvey Weinstein, I like that they noted that, seeded stories critical of Baldoni, including that Baldoni was a sexual predator ahead of the film's release. The complaint also states that Nathan's film was made aware of Sloan's planning of an unfavorable, false, and defamatory story against Baldoni's Baha'i faith to page 6. I'm sure I'm getting that wrong, mea culpa. And also planted a false story alleging that there were multiple HR complaints during production. Let's see here. We talked about the Heath part with the baby and the naked wife. Let's see here. Oh, here we go. Yeah, this is a part I was trying to get to, and I kind of was like, no, I got to talk about this other stuff first. The Baldoni et al. Complaint marks the latest development in a sprawling saga that has already generated an earlier lawsuit filed by Baldoni's former publicist Stephanie Jones against Abel. How Lively's team came to possess the trove of text messages that became the basis for the Times article was initially a mystery. Lively's attorney confirmed to Variety that they obtained the correspondence via a subpoena to Jones's PR firm, Jonesworks. Still, it's unclear on what grounds Jones would have been required to turn over correspondence involving former client Baldoni or former employee Abel, given that no lawsuit had been filed. It is hardly a coincidence that all of the communications on which Lively and the Times now rely were purportedly produced by Jones's company Jonesworks, LLC, pursuant to subpoena. That the propriety of this alleged subpoena is unverified and, at a minimum, highly questionable given Jones's involvement and the names by which Jones first obtained these confidential communications, the complaint notes. Abel, a former employee of Jonesworks, was forced to relinquish her electronic devices when confronted by a Jonesworks security guard and attorney upon her separation from the company. So it's like, okay, that part might be a legal shaky spot where Baldoni has a leg to stand on here too, right? I don't know. Once again, not a lawyer. I don't know if I can any better. But I was like, okay, these are definitely interesting developments. It's interesting to see his other side of the story. Ooh, is this the part? I guess we can go ahead and read this part because this is where at least Reynolds is mentioned once. As for the meeting at Lively and Reynolds' penthouse apartment in Tribeca, there we go. That's where Tribeca is mentioned, not a film thing or whatever. I guess I think my dumbass was just immediately like, yeah, Tribeca Film Festival. Anyway, let me run that back. As for the meeting at Lively and Reynolds' penthouse apartment in Tribeca, everyone was in shock by Reynolds' outburst, the lawsuit claims. According to the lawsuit, one of the film's producers was present, said that in his 40-year career, he had never seen anyone speak to someone like that in a meeting. While the Sony representative mentioned that she would often think of that meeting, and her one regret is that she didn't stop Reynolds from berating of Baldoni. Sorry. Let's see. It's important to know here, though, he was really mad because Baldoni went over Lively's head to her trainer and was like, hey, did she lose the weight post baby? I kind of gotta know. Like, and it's like, what? Like, that is wildly weird. It is wildly inappropriate. So it's like, once again, I don't want to come off like, oh, my eyes are awakened and I am now taking Justin Baldoni's side. No, I do think that like the narrative he is saying, there's path lines to it. I think legally, I can see where he's trying to cook here, but it's also like, you haven't refuted what you guys said in these text messages, where it's like you guys were trying to get her. Like, you guys were actively going out of your way to do that. Like, so we'll see how that stands up in court when it all is said and done. But at the end of the day, like, Ryan Reynolds is Blake Lively's husband, so you can understand where it's like, hey, I'm getting a chance to actually see you in the flesh, dog. You already got this weird fucking energy with my wife, like, and it's like, yeah, you tried to more or less say she didn't lose the weight, she's too fat or something. Like, what are we doing here, dog? Why are you doing that? Like, no, go fuck yourself. Like, so if he got a dress down, damn, I'm sorry, dog. I don't know if that's criminal. Well, I guess we'll see in court, I guess. But once again, I don't know. That takedown might have felt necessary. I kind of fuck with that vibe. But yeah, there's more details. I'm sure I didn't nail it. You know me. I'm just trying to do my best here. And I'll definitely, we'll be back to talk about this shit. Because, I guess waters run deep. I don't know. Anyway, that is where I will leave it for today. Let's see here. If you'd like to, help out, support the effort, it's a new year. It's a new opportunity to become a newsie. Yeah, baby. Patreon.com, so this is Zay News. Like I said, shout you out at the top of the month. Plug a project if you'd like. It's always on the table to do. Free ways to hit me up at zaynews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. Please subscribe to the YouTube. That's really helpful. That's really useful. Leave a like, leave a cool comment. Sharing is caring. And thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love you. Bye-bye. Mwah.